but God has a better life for us. And it's totally super counterintuitive and totally radical, and that's why it's so hard to do. God is asking you to decide to throw away all your other pursuits and be all in for him. That's what he's asking us to do. And he's asking you to step out in total faith to serve him instead of serving yourself, or even instead of serving your family. He's saying, will you step out in kind of like this blind, illogical, radical faith, totally counterintuitive. The culture is saying that you're an idiot. Are you a moron? What are you thinking about doing here? But are you willing to do that? Because that's where the true blessing is. That's what I am learning. I've told some of you about a friend of mine who is walking this out right now. My husband and I are really walking this out at times. To be totally honest, it's hard to live this way. It's so hard to live this way because our whole culture is saying, no, don't do it. Live for yourself. But when you follow God and you do these kind of like crazy, radical ways of living that are following God, that you end up truly being fulfilled and finding joy, and he meets needs in ways that you would have never, ever experienced. And that's our story. And we are, I mean, it seems like weekly, God just stuns us with something that he does that we're like, wow. And it's because we're trying to step out in faith and live for God all in, no matter what it takes. And for us, for instance, and sometimes it's easier to talk about factual things. For us, like for money, that's a very factual thing. I mean, we decided to go all in for God about almost 6 years ago now, and decided that we felt called into ministry. Some people prayed about that and affirmed that for us both. So we gave up looking for different secular jobs because we both left the radio station. We gave up looking for secular jobs. We gave up, and then slowly we gave up a lot of things. Like we had to cash in our entire 401k, all of our retirement, to keep living while we were trying to sow into ministry. Now, some people that knew us said, you can't do that. That is irresponsible. And it was kind of scary because we have nothing there, just nothing. But we've learned it doesn't matter because our employer has the cattle on 1,000 hills. He has everything we need. So we don't really have to worry about that, even though every once in a while it's like, we have no retirement. But that's the world's way of thinking, right? God's met every one of our needs. And then, even after we blew through all that, we still didn't have enough money to live for a while. So we got a second mortgage on our house. Don't tell anybody that. We got a second mortgage on it. And there were people that we invited in for counsel, godly people who said, you can't do that. That is not right because you are being irresponsible. This is not how Christians live. This is probably not like in Dave Ramsey's financial plan or whatever. And we said, you know, you're right. It's probably not logical. But we just feel like we're supposed to be all in for God, whatever it takes. If we need to sell our house, sell our cars, you know. And I'm not saying this was like, we were like, oh yes, that's no problem for us. I mean, we had some discussions about this. Sometimes I was stronger, and mostly my husband was stronger because we were like, I don't want to sell my car, or whatever, you know. But we hung in there, and we got a second mortgage on our house. And I could go on and on with, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details, but we just kind of stepped out and said, we're all in. We're taking all the poker chips, you know, in the middle, and we're all in. I don't think God plays poker, but you know the analogy of like, we're all in. And so, but the cool thing is that we now don't have a second mortgage anymore. I mean, just long story short, but actually we pay less for our mortgage because we refinanced it anyway. But anyway, and God took care of needs in just crazy weird ways. Crazy, ridiculously awesome ways that could only be God, and always at the last second of the last second of the last second. But he did, and I'm just saying, I'm here to say that when you choose to be all in for God and you live radically, counterculturally, God is impressed with that, and he says, okay, I'm going to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of here. And you're going to be truly fulfilled. And even relationships are going to work better. Things are going to be healed in your life because you've decided to be all in for me. So that's the message I'm hoping you're going to get today. And it comes down to this, back to our handout. Do you believe that you can hand over control of every area of your life to God? Do you believe you can hand over every area of your life to God? Do you trust him? I mean, really. Do you trust him? Do you really believe that he is for you and that he has plans to prosper you and not to harm you? Do you believe that really? Jeremiah 29:11, famous verse, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." But do you really believe that? Because we all say, oh yeah, I believe that. But do we really believe that enough that you'd say, yes, I'm all in. Whatever you want me to do, God, I'm all in. God is asking you to live in a radical new way, where you let go of everything you've been trying to control and you follow him. He's not asking if you're willing to let go of everything. He's not asking that. He's not asking you if you're willing to let go. He is asking you to let go of control.